Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello, and welcome back to the channel where you rejoin me back in the storage in London with some of the Shmeemobiles. To be honest, I've not really been here all that much recently. I've been spending more time in the garage of my friend Jer Collector and also in the barn at Apex at the Nürburgring than I have here in the UK with my own cars. But we've got 6 of the Shmeemobiles here at the moment. The others are scattered all over the place. I'll give a quick run through in a moment. But today we need to talk about something that has happened to the AMG GTR Pro. Now, I took the car out for a drive the other day, and while it was parked on private land, it was the victim of a little bump to the rear. I will show you in a moment exactly the damage that has resulted, but effectively a buggy pulling a trailer just managed to clip the back, which has done some damage to the bumper and also to the carbon diffuser. Now, as you all know, most of the Shmeemobiles have Topaz paint protection film. The GTR Pro is no exception, and I am hoping with every single finger and toe crossed that today, taking the car to Topaz, we're going to be able to change the film and there will be no damage to the paintwork, because this car is Mercedes Designo Diamond White, which is a pearlescent metallic white, a very hard colour to match if you have to do any paint to it. And today, if we can avoid that, that will be a mission success in my books. It will need some new carbon fibre. Let's have a quick look at the damage, then get the car out, go over to Topaz and see if we're going to be in luck. Let's start just with a quick overview to go over which cars are currently where. So here in the storage, we have the G63 and the GTR Pro, we have the Ford GT, and then the Aston GT8. And this car, by the way, is going to be embarking over the next couple of days on its first road trip in quite a while, something that is long overdue. And then we also have the Heritage RS and the Ferrari GTC4 Lusso, which does leave a number of the cars absent at the moment. So just outside, the 675 LT Spider and the red Focus RS are currently being cleaned up. The Toyota GR Supra is still advertised for sale, and then over in Germany we have the McLaren Senna, the SLS Black Series and the BMW M8. But I know you want to see what has happened to this, so let's come through and take a look. Of course, at the front all is well, it is perfect, but that story changes as we come through towards the back, and I will need to turn on the light to be able to show you this properly and what has happened just here to the rear bumper. There are 2 areas of concern. The first, as you can see, the scratches here to the bumper part, and then secondly, down here, the very damaged carbon fibre. Now, this isn't as bad as it might first seem. Let's just talk about this. This is the least bad part, because basically this does need replacing, but it's a bolt-on part. There's no major work to it. You just take it apart, take that off, put on a new carbon fibre diffuser. It's just this central part, not crazy money, and the other party has accepted that it was their fault, so hopefully they will cover it and all will be sorted on that front. This has the potential to be a complete and total disaster. If you had scratched a bumper of a car that didn't have PPF, especially in a colour like this, that would be a blended respray up through the boot, through the quarter. I'm not entirely sure. It would be a nightmare. I'm hoping though, as it doesn't look like it's gone through the film itself, that when we remove this, the paintwork underneath is going to be fine and we can stick on some new film over the top and all will be completely well with it. We're going to have to see though if that is the case. It also doesn't look like it's damaged the bumper itself. There is some give in the plastic bumpers, so that should be fine too. Anyway, let me get it started while the trickle charger unplugged, start the car, take it out, get over to Topaz and see what we can do. Right then, it is time to start the GTR Pro. Get set to head over to Topaz. A couple of miles, not exactly the world's longest drive. I'm just hoping that we're going to be able to save some of this a little bit later on. As you probably know, driving in London is not the most fun thing to do at the best of times. It's a city with narrow streets with lots of congestion, the congestion charge, low speed limits, lots of cameras. It's super busy, always traffic, and for a long time I've kept my cars in the city. It's been convenient for me in terms of my personal base, so to speak, but I'm really leaning towards changing things, and I'll tell you more about this later on, because this year in particular the city has really become very, I would say, hostile towards cars. 40-mile-an-hour limits are now 30, 30-mile-an-hour limits are generally now 20, including the road on which I live. The congestion charge is no longer just daytimes on weekdays, it includes the evenings and the weekends. There are even more cameras, even more speed limits, even more pedestrian zones, even more cycle lanes, and most of these things are great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, I like the move in general. It just means that it's time really to start thinking about taking cars away from this. This makes no sense. It's never made sense to drive cars like this in the city. That's why you don't often see me, to be honest, driving them. I normally take Ubers, sometimes jump on a bus, whatever it might be. But the time has come Average speed check zone ahead. The time has come basically to make some dramatic changes. So I will tell you a little bit more about this later on and what I'm going to be doing next. You might be wondering, and yes, state the obvious, we're going to try and clean this off before we need to get as far as replacing the PPF, because we think it's possible potentially to actually remove it. Of course, if this had been straight on paintwork, it would have been a much more abrasive job than, well, hopefully the result. So fingers crossed this is actually going to work. And you might also notice I need to put a new plate on. That plate has gone very wrong. So car going inside then into the Topaz workshop, and let's go see what we can do. The first experiment, let's see if this can come out in some form. It doesn't look too bad. Of course, this is one of the beauties of PPF, is that it's much easier to then clean the car than it would be normally straight on paintwork. That's doing a pretty nice job. Obviously, we'll have to inspect it closely afterwards. But this is mostly coming out. I think this was the plastic wheel arch surround on the trailer that hit the car, as opposed to rubber. That's a pretty nice benefit even just there of PPF, because imagine if that had been straight onto the paintwork. That would have actually been some scratches in the surface. Oh, that is amazing. That looks brilliant. That looks absolutely brilliant. No dents, no damage. Oh, phew, that's a relief. Obviously, this is not so good, but to save even having to do a new piece of PPF on the bumper is what I consider a mission success. There's no marks, there's absolutely no marks. I know that's a small thing, but I am very, very, very happy and very relieved that has been able to be rectified. While the GTR Pro is here in the wash bay, the guys are very kindly giving it a quick rinse down. So using all of the right brushes for the wheels to get through the spokes around the calipers and the gigantic brake discs. Of course, we've seen the process before when I brought the cars in for PPF to be installed in the first place, which, believe it or not, for this car was now almost a year ago. Just a massive, massive relief for me that this isn't a much bigger operation than it could have been. Of course, I will need to get the new diffuser part and also the new shield that you have here over the side exhaust, because this also has a few scratches along it, but those are hot swap. We'll be able to swap them over, put them on, bring the car back at some point in the future, and have PPF reinstalled on the parts for any lighter damage that might happen further down the line. Of course, using all of the right chemicals and things here to get the wheels done, then go over the car, go through the process, and get it fully washed up before taking it back to the garage. Many hands make light work. Very loud with the pressure washers, with the guys going all around the car, which was dirtier than I realised. Of course, I did take it for that outing. And now that I'm standing here, I'm just glued to looking at that number plate, which needs a fix. You can see the way the material has gone completely wrong. Oh, better get back. Then the car gets a bath from top to bottom with the shampoo. Before that will be rinsed down as well. And then it will be, I guess, not too far from getting it back out on the roads. After drying it with some mitts, now they use the airline. Yes, that's a little bit quiet. It's very, very, very noisy, but a pretty efficient way to get the car dry before taking it back out on a beautiful day. I thought it was going to be a bit cold and miserable today. It is in fact absolutely lovely to get this car back out and take it for a drive again. It's also just had a complete interior clean as well. Things like the glass, the seats, making sure it is totally immaculate. I don't think the car has looked as clean as it is right now since the day that, well, it left Topaz the first time. Inside here, just over 2,000 miles on it, but still plenty more to come in the future. Obviously, before the arrival of the GT Black Series, the Pro is going to be used an awful lot more, and in fact, I might even end up keeping it. I do really enjoy this thing. Be interesting to see what the Black Series sounds like and what we can do with the sound of the Black Series. Obviously a completely different sound to this, but we'll be hearing plenty more of that in the near future as well. Right, back into action. Yes, we've heard the startup of this car a lot of times in this video, but I'm going to head out, and amusingly, while I am here, Schmark 150's M2 competition has actually returned back as well. That's been off having some work done, and it's about to undergo a complete Topaz skin. So obviously we have the air conditioning blowing pretty strongly at the moment, but it is just over here amongst some very nice cars. Anyway, out we go back towards the garage to tell you a little bit more then about the plans that I have ahead. As I was saying, driving here in London is moderately boring. It is not the right place for cars like these at all, he says, as we have a 488 coming towards us. GTB or Spider, we will see in just a second. 488 GTB. Speed bumps, narrow roads, slow speed limits, cameras, congestion charge. And this is basically why I've decided that it is finally time, even if I don't have an end plan, to get my cars out of the city, to get on with the next chapter, I guess, for the Shmeemobiles. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be, where it's going to be, where it will end up taking me. All I know is that driving in the city is just, I mean, it's always been pretty pointless, but now it's completely, like, of all the places I go, this is one of the least exciting places to have cars, and I don't really know why I'm wasting my time having my cars here anymore. So that is the plan. They're going to be going out of London. I'm looking for places. I'm actively searching to try and find a unit. I know I want to be towards the west of London. I obviously know that I want it to have some privacy, to be somewhere pretty quiet. I don't want it to be in the middle of a busy industrial estate or something like that, of course. I think it's important with making videos, also with the cars as well. As much as I would love to have it as a public venue, I might be able to do some small private things, but as I'm sure you can appreciate, for insurance and security and that side of things, it needs to be a discreet location, and that's obviously very important. So we'll see what comes up. Maybe in the meantime I'll take a number of cars over to the Nürburgring and just enjoy being in Germany a little bit more while we still can. Who knows what's going to happen next with Brexit and all of that side of things. So yeah, it's a lot of unknowns, I suppose. Other than that, I'm going to be departing from the storage, although I am heading back there right now to put this away, to put the LT away, and the Red RS should be done as well. On the way back to base, I actually just stopped off at my Mercedes-Benz dealer to talk about two things. The first, I know a lot of you have been asking me about, what is happening next with my GTR Roadster. Now the car is there, I do have some updates, and that is going to be coming very, very, very soon. It will all make sense, believe me. The second was to pop over to the parts department to ask about the new carbon pieces that we're going to need, which, much to my surprise, considering we're talking a supercar with a lot of carbon parts, is a lot less expensive than I think it could have been. In fact, let's just come through and talk about the exact numbers back here. So of course we have two major parts that are going to need to be replaced. The first is the full carbon fibre diffuser. This is one piece that runs all the way from the left side across the exhaust, across the centre exhaust, over to the other side. So we need a new one of those. The second is the heat shield up here, which actually goes underneath the exhaust tailpipes and back up, which is a bit loose but also has some scratching on the carbon on the top. So both of those parts put together, including VAT, are only, and remember this is relative, £1,750. On top of that, there is some labour to do the installation, and they will also need new PPF on top after they've been changed. But considering that's not actually all that bad, quite a surprise really. I was expecting it probably to be, well, 2 or 3 times that price. So this is very, very convenient in the grand scheme of things. Now I did also say earlier that these other cars were back. The 675 LT Spider is now parked back up, and the Red RS is here as well. The LT just had a massive adventure. It did about 4,000 miles, so having not really been driven, well, certainly not in the last 12 months, and then not all that much in the 12 months before, it now has, I think, about 17,000 miles on the clock, a permanent Shmeemobile, and I enjoyed it an awful lot. It is time, though, to take out one of the others. So I'm going to pull out the GT8. The Red RS will go in that spot because I have these 7 spaces in total, and obviously need to take this and get it set and ready for the journey ahead, which probably means I'll need to take off the extended carbon splitters as well, because no doubt on the drive at some point those are going to end up scraping. Everything else will be staying here for the time being, so I need to get all of the covers sorted out as well, and just make sure all of the trickle chargers are all doing exactly what they should. Lots of covers are on then, which means next comes the ludicrous startup of the GT8, and it has been quite a while. I do need to go around to the boot to unplug the trickle charger, which has been in for a long time. I think this car should be totally fine, but there's always a small worry whether there might be an issue, but you just unplug that. Of course, I'm going to pop this away into the car as well, so just grab this, pop it inside the boot, nice and easy. I can just sit in here for the time being. Nothing to stress about, and I guess everything should be working fine, so let's come through and give it a go. The car hasn't had a run out, well, for a good couple of months at least. It hasn't had a massive run out for, well, the best part of a year, maybe a little bit more, I'm not entirely sure. But let's see if it starts first time. Wake it up just for a moment, and then fire it up. Hey, it never seems to miss a beat, this car. Always sounds brilliant. So let me pull it forwards then, get it out of the way to park up the Red RS. Yet again, all of the Shmeemobiles are tucked away for the time being, but I do still find it quite funny how the G63 is far too big for this cheap over-the-top car cover. It does not look right on a G-Wagon in the slightest, but all of the others packed away. I will do the Red RS in just a second before I head on out, but this is really the beginning of the end, I think is the way to put it. The end of my time in this supercar storage facility in London that I arrived at 4 years ago. I had some spaces over that away with my 675 LT Spider, the GT8 and the FF. At the time I had the blue Focus RS and the Shmini and had a bit of a rotation with those 3 spaces. Then a year later, I moved to some spaces up that way when I had the AMG GTR, the Aston Vanquish, and I guess I had them swapping around a bit as well, but before the Ford GT and the McLaren Senna. And then a year and a half ago, I moved to these 7 spaces where I've enjoyed having the cars, but there have been a number of problems along the way in the storage. I've talked a little bit about them, but things like, for example, some leaks. We've had some animals running through, some things that have made me want to go towards a new place, just a bit more security, a bit more privacy as well. I think that's quite important with these kind of cars. But the way this year has gone, and you've been seeing that I've been trying to enjoy the cars as much as possible, not being afraid of mileage, going to the Nürburgring, the Autobahn, because I think the clock is ticking on being able to use these cars in the way that we do now. I don't know what the future is going to hold, who does? But I think that I want to make the most of it. While it's possible to share these adventures with you guys, I want to make the absolute maximum out of this and do every bit I possibly can. But I think to do so, I need to get out of the city. I need to get the cars to the countryside, maybe some to Germany, maybe something just outside of London. We'll have to see exactly what direction that goes. But by giving notice on the leases for the spaces means I've kind of forced myself that I have to do it. It has to happen now. I'll have to find somewhere. We'll have to see how that evolves. I'm quite excited actually about it and about what might happen next. Who really knows? Anyway, thank you very much for watching as always, guys. Very pleased to have this sorted out. Big thanks to Topaz as always. PPF has saved the day. Massive shout out to it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to always have it on every car because proof in the pudding, right? Just showing you exactly what it managed to protect and prevent the damage from being even worse. That is it for now though. I'll see you again very soon. Thank you very much, guys. See you then. Cheers.